Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to do the wrap up for October. It is November 1st as I'm filming this, so it's time for my wrap up for last month's reading. I was not sure about doing this one because I reviewed a lot of these books in separate videos, but I figured why not go ahead and do it anyway. I kind of like doing these, keeps me organized. And in case you guys haven't seen those videos yet, it's a good way to hint to please check out those videos. Okay, so I'm first gonna start what I read on my Kindle because I read a couple of books on here via my Kindle. So the first I read was Of Blood and Fire by Ron Cahill. This is the first official book because there is the prequel, The Fall, which I read back in September, and I remember being a little disappointed. Not that it was bad, but I wish there had been more to it, and I feel like it felt more like a prologue than an actual novella. But the Blood in of Blood and Fire was really good. A great start. I did my initial thoughts on this one because I feel like it wasn't a good review because, like I said, when it comes to epic fantasy, or big fantasy stories, I always struggle with reviewing those because so much happens in those stories. There's so many characters, and it's just I struggle with reviewing them because and I love the book so much that it's hard for me to pinpoint what the aspects that I don't love about it. It did give me vibes of The Eye of the World, but it does do its own thing, as I said in that review. I really like how the characters don't, even though our main kid, whose name I do not remember because I read this at the beginning of the month. I like how the people don't trust him right away, like when he shows up. And, being a dragon rider, they're not sure about him. And he is just a kid. So, of course, and these people have been war for years and trying to fight back the enemy. And so it's kind of understandable they don't trust him. It makes sense that they wouldn't, be gung ho, but they're putting all this pressure on him to prove himself. I like how this book focuses on dwarves. We don't, I feel like there are definitely a lot more stories that were with dwarves included, but I like it when they play, we need more stories where the dwarves play a bigger role. Like, I like the dwarves in Lord of the Rings, and so Lord of the Rings, why not, that needs to come back. Which, I feel like it is coming back. There are a lot of stories, but I would love to see them, like, as the main characters more often. Especially in that queen dwarf, she's a piece of work, I gotta say. She's a really fun character, she's a tough bitch and you don't want to mess with, but you probably want her on your side. And I think the whole, dragon riders and mages and stuff is really cool. I'm wondering what is going to happen because two of the boys they have big roles to play. Well, while the one of them, we haven't figured out, there's got to be something revealed about him, or like he's gonna, even if he's not super powered or anything, hopefully maybe he'll show he has great strength in other ways. I'm assuming. And the dragon was so cute. But I always, when I read these stories about characters having pet dragons, I always want my own pet dragon. And, let's see. What else can I say about this? I don't know what else I can say without, I probably already repeated what I said in my video about the book. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a great first book. I don't know if I'm going to review each of the books in the series individually or not, but I do have already a book 2 on here. But we will see if I individually review them. Like I said, I still go with reviewing big fantasy stories. I also, on my Kindle, I also read the spell book of Katrina von Tassel, which I also did a review for that one. That is a retelling of Sleepy Hollow through Katrina's perspective. And I do like in the beginning how she lets you know that this is a different story from Washington Irving's. Like, she points out that he got it wrong. And this is the real story. I like that. I like that setup. I think there was, there was romance. It's definitely more focused on the romance between Ichabod and Katrina, while the original story doesn't. In fact, Ichabod is not a likable guy in the original story. In fact, he just wants to marry Katrina, but because she's beautiful and she's rich. Indeed, but I like how this one and other modern adaptations really, Ichabod and Katrina are in love. So this is definitely one of those, if you like the original story, if you like the story, or maybe if you sort of like the original, but you have seen the Tim Burton movie and really love that one, this might be more of your kind of thing. Although I shouldn't say entirely, because it doesn't have as much gothicness to it. It doesn't have all the supernatural elements that the Tim Burton movie had. But it does develop the romance more in this one. Like the only thing is, I've noticed over the years that the Ichabod and Katrina romance does feel a little insta-lovey in that movie, which is fine. I mean, I think Tim Burton wanted to focus more on the mystery, the horror mystery aspects of it, and this didn't have as much of the supernatural elements like that movie did either. And there was one part of it towards the end, the outcome of the end, I wasn't completely happy with. But there was parts of it that I was good with, but parts of it I wasn't. I like that there's a focus a lot on female friendship. That was really good. I think that is the core of this story, is the heart of the story, is the friendship between Katrina and Charlotte. But yeah, so that was good. I don't know if I would reread it or not. I mean, I might reread it because there were aspects of it that I did like. But, I got it months ago, so I can't return it, even if I don't ever want to read it again. So, that's the only thing. But it's also on my Kindle, so it's not taking up space on my shelf. But at least on my shelf, if I physically bought it, then I can at least donate it if I decide I don't want to ever read it again. But with this having it on here, I have to keep it. So, and then the other one I read on my Kindle was The Omen by David Seltzer. This is a classic horror. It was actually adapted twice into a movie. So this is the story of the Thorne family. Thorne is a politician. He does become an ambassador later, and they are trying to have a child, but they are unsuccessful, and a priest approaches them and offers them, during their last attempt, and they do physically, the woman does physically have a child, his wife does, but the baby dies, and so this priest offers them to take another child, this beautiful baby boy whose own mother died, and he doesn't tell his wife. Well, a lot of weird stuff happens around this kid, a lot of creepy, weird stuff, and a lot of people die, and like there's a creepy doll that's, and it turns out this kid is probably the Antichrist. This is a very dark story, and I did a separate review for this one as well. That's the only problem why I didn't want to do this wrap up, because I reviewed quite a few of almost all of my books as separate reviews. But this is definitely a really dark story, not for the faint of heart. It's at one point they do describe killing a baby. And there's one in the beginning of the book, someone jumps off the roof, which, I mean, if you've seen the movie, then you know what happens. It's definitely, it might, if you don't really believe in the whole Antichrist, you could look at this as a horror book, but if you are someone who does believe in the Antichrist and everything, then this probably might scare you. And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, if the Antichrist does exist and does happen, probably not in my lifetime. So I'm not going to say whether I believe or disbelieve, but this was a very engaging read. And I might not read it again right away, or at least to wait until next October if I do want to reread it again. But I'm glad I can say it's one that I read, classic horror that I read. And now I will see hopefully at some point I will see one of the adaptations. So now that's all the books I read on my Kindle. Now, as far as physical books, I only read 2 books for Victober this year. One of them I didn't even finish, but this was my first read for Victober, The Woman in White. And this is kind of a bit of a suspense mystery kind of story. So you have these 2 sisters. Let me see. It doesn't say. I was trying to remember the name of the one that gets married. Maybe, or is it Lucy? Maybe it's a Lucy. Oh, it's Laura. It's Laura. That's her name. You have these 2 sisters, Marion Halcombe and Laura. And Laura they are living with their uncle. And Laura, she was arranged by her father to marry a Sir Percival Glyde. And of course, being the honorable daughter that she is, she agrees to it and she's gonna do it. But then a drawing master, their uncle hires a drawing master to teach his nieces, to teach Laura's how to draw, and that is Mr. Walter Hartwright. And the book starts with him. And it also starts with his encounter with a mysterious woman in white who seems to be on the run from someone. And he feels bad for her. He helps her out, gives her directions on where she wants to go. And then it turns out he finds that these doctors from an asylum are after her, trying to bring her back because she's a patient. But he, feeling bad for her, admits that he hasn't seen her. So he ends up going to the 2 sisters and is teaching them, and him and Laura end up falling in love. But of course, she is engaged to Sir Percival Glyde. She also receives a mysterious note from an anonymous woman, who you find out later is the same mysterious woman that Walter met on the way to the house. And she warns Laura that her new fiance, Sir Percival, is not to be trusted. He has some secrets, and that she shouldn't marry him. But Laura, trying to honor her father's wishes, decides to offer the chance for Sir Percival to object to their marriage. And also, she lets him know about the note and that she has fallen in love with someone else. But of course, you find out that he is in debt. He needs money, and so he wants to marry Laura for her family's fortune. Now, that money, when Laura intends to give the money to her sister Marion. And so Percival is like, I'm gonna marry, I want to marry you and everything. So the pair get married, and surprise, surprise, Sir Percival Glyde is not that great of a guy. He has a bit of a temper. He's an asshole. And he tries to force Laura to sign a paper that will give him her money, and Mary won't get anything. And we also have another person in the house, a Count Fosco, who is friends with Sir Percival and is also married to Laura and Marion's aunt, who turns out to be, have become a very different person since she married Count Fosco and became a countess. So, as I said in my separate review, this was really great. I very much enjoyed this. It was a very suspenseful read. And I kept turning the pages, wanting to know what was going to happen, wanting to know if these girls were going to get out of this situation. I really admire Marion as a character. She's so strong and, she doesn't take crap from anybody. And she tells a lot of the story because the story is structured so we get multiple narratives from different characters. As I said in that review, I thought the Count was more intimidating and scary because, Sir Percival, he has a temper. He's dangerous and he's the one trying to take Laura's money and everything. But the Count, he's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. He charms you and wins you over. And he also has some endearing qualities, like not just being very charming and is charismatic, but he also has these pets, a parakeet and mice, that he's very gentle with and kind of sweet with. And also he's, this Italian man who loves opera. Is constantly singing arias, and it's just, he's kind of funny at times. And I also like Walter's character. Walter was a great character. He's gone for a lot of the book, but he's a great, love interest for Laura. He's kind and caring to, and he respects Laura and he wants to help her. He's also very brave. And Marion is also very brave too. There's just a lot of great characters. There was an aspect of the ending I admit that I was kind of surprised by. I don't know if I mentioned in my separate review. And there was a lot of information given towards the end about, a lot of reveals that were made that I was like very overwhelmed, and it was a lot of information. I don't remember everything. I really wish I had, I imagine seeing the adaptation would probably help for me to understand everything that was revealed. But yeah, so this was really good. Wilkie Collins tells a great story, and I'll probably read The Moonstone next. But that was The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I will talk about the other Victorian novel I read, but I didn't finish it this month, so for October, so it's more of probably a November read. So the book, and then let's see. The book I read after Spellbook of Katrina Van Tassel was Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. Now, I haven't read her Gideon and the Nine series yet. I don't know if I will or not. But I did really enjoy this one. This is about these three sisters, the Eastwood sisters, Beatrice Belladonna Eastwood, James Juniper Eastwood, and Agnes Amarantha Eastwood. And they had an abusive father. Their mom died when they were really young. They were kind of raised and taught by their grandmother and their father. But their father was abusive and very controlling. He kind of turned them against each other. So in the beginning of the book, we realize they haven't seen each other in years. They haven't spoken to each other in years, and they think really badly of each other because they feel like, Bella and Agnes left Juniper with their abusive father, and she doesn't really understand why. They haven't spoken to her, tried to save her from their father. And both Agnes and Bella think that the other one betrayed them and told on them for their secret little love affairs when they were teenagers. And so they are reunited in the city of, I think it's Salem. In New Salem. They are reunited again, and they both witness the strange appearance of this mysterious tower. And they realize that they could bring back witches and witchcraft. They could take back the power that was taken from them, because magic has been lost for years. And it's also around the time during the women's suffragettes movement. and they decide to get involved with the women's movement, and also sorry, I'm stumbling my words. They get involved with the suffragist movement and also use it as a way to bring back magic into the world. But they find out that they have a threat in New Salem, which is the man running for mayor of Salem. This man who turns out that he might not be what he seems, and he might not be as innocent of not doing witchcraft as he leads people to believe. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words right now. But anyway, okay, that's the review. I mean that's the summary of this. I would start over because I'm like really struggling for some reason right now, but I just started talking about it, and I'll probably be called down to dinner soon, so I don't want to have to start over with this. So forgive me for stumbling on my words and messing up. So this was a very enjoyable read. This is I feel like it's a very perfect autumnal read and I like that it combines, this the witch movement with the suffragette movement, because it's kind of a perfect combination, because they both deal with women trying to fight against male power, women that have been, are being controlled by men. Like, women just want their own rights. For the suffragette movement are just fighting back, and while during the witch trials, women were being accused of being witches just because they had knowledge and understanding that men didn't. So men were afraid and paranoid, and they got women that were willing to fall in line to turn against them. So it's a bit of, so it makes perfect sense that you combine these two movements together. And this antagonist is bringing back the witch trials, basically. He, as they say, will not suffer a witch to live. And so he's a great antagonist, a great villain, because he's just like so scary, because he is very human, and you can kind of, once you find out why he's doing this and about his past, you can kind of on some level understand his anger and how he fell into this power trip and why he became the villain that he is and the antagonist he is. And he kind of becomes a mirror to Juniper, because they both have all this anger and wanting to take power back and wanting to punish people for what they did to them. So it's, Juniper, if she's not careful, she could become like this man. Also, his controlling people and controlling people's shadows is really creepy, and it's like, and of course it's a metaphor for mass what's the word, when you have a group of people, like mass paranoia and all that. Like, he really, he's really focuses on that. You really see that through him, because he gets everybody to go after these women, and no matter how many times they fight him, he's always a step ahead of them. I like how in the magic is really, really cool, because it's very mysterious, and it feels very naturalistic, with the magic, and it's not too whimsical or anything. It feels very like normal, and it kind of reminds me of the Magicians in a little bit. Also, it's funny, while I was reading this, Agatha All Along was this month. It just ended on the 30th, and they do talk about Maiden, Mother, and Crone, which is referred to in Agatha All Along. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like, while I was watching that show, I was reading this book as well, and they talk about it as well. And each of the sisters kind of represents those three roles. Like, you have the oldest, Bella is the crone. She is the oldest sister. She's starting to look older. She's the wisest, but she's also the most cautious and most protective of her sisters, and always trying to do the smart thing, the cautious thing. But she's almost too cautious. And we have, at one point, we find that she is gay, but because of their father and his abuse, she's afraid to have those kinds of relationships. And she does meet this one woman at one point. I cannot remember her name, this black woman that she falls in love with, but of course, not only the whole fact that they are gay, but also this woman is black. So and this is in the 1800s. So there's double the trouble for them, for these two women who have fallen in love with each other. And also she's, at first she's thinking that she can't trust this woman. There is a sense of distrust between them, that a trust they have to build between these two women to have a good relationship. And the other thing is about Bella is constantly putting others before herself all the time. And then we have Agnes, who she became a mother, and so she's trying to protect her child, and she's afraid, and she's always, throughout this book, they always talk about she's the one who's always afraid. She is told to protect her sisters, like she's the more nurturing one, but she's afraid and doesn't have confidence in herself that she can protect them, and she's also worried about protecting her child and doesn't want to put her child in danger. So she's also very cautious, if you think about it, like, because she has another life to protect, not just her sisters or herself, but her innocent, vulnerable child. And so she's always thinking about her daughter first. She is thinking about the future of her child, and how her daughter will be the future of witchcraft and what comes next for women. And then you have Juniper, who she is the maiden, and she is free to do, she's free to be wild, and she's the strongest one and the most confident one. She's the reckless one. She can be reckless because she doesn't have any responsibilities. She doesn't have children. She's the baby of the family, so she can be wild and free. While the mom, and so she's like the most. And you find out that, and you actually kind of find out that the maiden was seen as, she's supposed to be demure and innocent and virginal, but actually, as Juniper points out, she is the most wild, and she has the most bite in her. And she's feisty and just like Juniper. I also, also, I like how the magic is like a song. I feel like a lot of stories about witchcraft imply that magic and spells are like songs, or they're like rhymes, or like poems. Like, even in the show Charmed, there is a sense of that the spells kind of rhyme and are sing-songy, and they're like poems. They don't talk about it as much, and I'm talking about the original show, but it is there. Like, each of the spells are very, even if they're just simple little, a single 2 phrases, it still has a rhyme. It still feels like a couplet. And even when the characters try to write their own spells, it is kind of, old-timey poems and stuff like that, with, and has a whimsy to them. So I really like that, and this time it really focused. And also throughout the book, there are these fairy tales the sisters tell each other, and all the witches have those stories, have these fairy tales, and they kind of take the known fairy tales and have a more feminist spin to them, highlighting, like, I'm trying to remember. It's, like I said, it's been a while. It's been a week or two, so I don't remember what the details of some of them. But some of them, they put a spin on them that makes you realize maybe the witch was not as villainous as it seemed. They even have a spin on him. They have a little spin on Hansel and Gretel. I think they have a spin on Rumpelstiltskin. And they even bring in Russian folklore as well. But it was really, so, yeah. So I enjoyed that as well. But anyway, so this was a really great, retelling. I think, It's a great story for, people who like witch stories, but it's also for, women, for historical fiction lovers. And it's also for people that are writing about stories about women and feminism. But yeah, this was really great. One of my favorites. Like I said, I don't know. As I commented on the video I watched earlier today, I don't know if I can choose between this one or The Omen. I mean, they're very different stories. So okay. So this next one, I actually just did a This one I didn't mark it as read on Goodreads, but I did record myself reading The Tall Tale Heart from this earlier this month, and I did not realize that Mike from Mike's Book Reviews did that as well, so I'll have to watch his. Even though October's over and it's November, I'm still gonna watch it. But I really enjoyed that story. It's very suspenseful, and I think I've read it before in one of those anthologies in English class. It's basically, in case you don't know, it's basically this guy who murders this person because he doesn't, for what I think is a crazy reason, and the police come to investigate the murder. He tries to hide the body, and he's all proud and smug and everything, and as the police are interrogating him, and he's trying, he's telling the reader that I'm not crazy, I'm not mad, I'm just as sane as you are. So it's very suspenseful, very intense, and there's a reason it's called The Telltale Heart. But it's really good. I think I'm getting to the good stories, the stories that I like, because the earlier ones are just kind of okay in this collection. Okay. I'm trying, as you can tell, I'm kind of speeding up a little bit because I can hear my parents preparing, and they're going to call me down soon. Okay. So the last book I just finished today, and it is November 1st, so it's going into November as well, but I'm going to talk about it because it's only the 1st of November, and I read most of this October, but it did take me a whole year to read, and that is the biography of John Adams by David McCullough. I've always been intrigued by John Adams, and he was brought to my attention as a president when watching 1776, the movie adaptation, and then I had the soundtrack from the revival show. And I've just always been intrigued by him, and my dad is also a fan of his, and he wanted to be John Adams when the local community theater did the 1776. And he's definitely worth admiration. He had a tough presidency when he was president. He was second to George Washington, and everybody loved. I mean, towards the end of Washington's run as president, people started kind of turning against him. And it's funny, as I was reading this, when I got to the presidency part of John Adams, it kind of, things haven't changed much. The only thing now we have is the internet and television. Other than that, the way things are done in politics, the way politicians act is not that different, which is really sad, but true. But it was really cool to see what he had done. He created, he created a lot of stuff. He accomplished a lot during his reign, and he never lost his integrity. He had a lot of integrity. I mean, he had his temper. He was very stubborn and intellectually vain. But he was a good man, had a strong moral compass and belief system. He definitely was a man of God, but he didn't preach. And he loved his wife. He was a good husband. He didn't have a mistress, didn't cheat on her or anything. It was always his wife Abigail. He always respected her. He always asked for her opinion, and they would write letters constantly. Like I have that letters from John and Abigail Adams, as a Penguin edition that I've started to read. I haven't finished it yet, but it was, so their relationship was very sweet and very endearing. And you gotta admire the man. Like I said, he had his faults, but he still, he was still a good man. He did the best he could, during his time. And he really was very passionate and advocated for this revolution. He was one of the main founding fathers and that really cared and wanted to fought for our independence. And probably the most vocal of these guys, you know, and he didn't care if people didn't like him. I mean, he still was sensitive, but he still kept fighting, you know. He didn't let himself get knocked down or anything, you know. He kept fighting, and he also accepted when he did get knocked down. He accepted, he was okay with his, you know, he wasn't, like, he was still angry and will lash out at people, but in the end, he accepted it. And his relationship with Jefferson was very interesting. They were kind of what you would say frenemies. There was love and respect. But when it came to their views, when it came to once politics came to play, their opposing views got between them. You know, and Jefferson does not look good in this book. Of course, he also does not always look 100% good in the Hamilton biography by Chernow. Although Hamilton doesn't look that great either in both books, in both his own biography and this one. So I am excited to read the Jefferson biography. Like, I want to get to the Abigail Adams biography that I just bought, but I kind of want to read the Jefferson one next. Because I want to see how his reign went, his president. I mean, they do talk about it a little bit, and he does change things. And what was nice is that Adams didn't hold it against Jefferson. When Jefferson got to be president and changed things, he was, you know, cool with it. He didn't interfere. He didn't pitch a hissy fit about things. He accepted it. But yeah, I definitely really find their relationship the most interesting in this book. And then they, you know, and it was kind of cool to see his time in Europe when he went to England, and he tried to help in France, but he just couldn't. He didn't have the right persona to really fit in among the French and form a bond with them. Not like Franklin or Jefferson. But he does, you know, when it came to Holland, he was great there. He formed quite the relationship there. And he tried to work in England, but, you know, of course, England was still fresh from their defeat and losing us, you know, and so they were like, nope, you still got to pay. Once you pay your debts, maybe we'll cooperate. Also, the whole thing with France was quite the struggle, because he still wanted peace and everything with the French, but he also knew if it came to it, he would defend America. And that, I think, is what got him the most trouble, because there were a lot of people, the Anti-Federalists, the Democratic Republicans, were just so against him, and so were the Federalists in the end, because they were all loyal to Hamilton. They worshipped Hamilton. And so he had people on all cylinders giving him a hard time. He was not going to win. He had a pretty difficult pregnancy, but he did, like I said, did a lot of good things and dealt with it the best he could. So I think he's definitely someone to be admired and respected. And also, he was apparently a hell of a lawyer too. Which I guess a lot of them are lawyers. I think Jefferson was a lawyer too. But yeah, so I think next either I'm gonna read, probably gonna read Jefferson's and Abigail's biography. I don't know which one I'm gonna read next. Like I said, I kind of leaning towards Jefferson because I want to know how his presidency went, but I also want to read about his wife, Adams's wife, and I wonder if his son, because John Quincy also became president. He was the 6th president. So I'd be curious to know about him as well. If he has a biography. But yeah, this informed me a lot. I mean, I probably learned more than I ever did in my U.S. history class while I was in school, in high school, middle school, reading this book. But yeah, this is definitely worth a read if you are interested in the American Revolution. At least this is, I feel like, one part of it. Although you could, you know, that miniseries starring Paul Giamatti as Adams is what this book, or that was based off of this book, this biography. So you can always check that out. But this, obviously, the physical book will give you more information, probably. But yeah, definitely worth the read. Okay, so that was the last book. I am still kind of reading Framley Parsonage. This was the other Victorian. I'm still enjoying it. I think I would say I'm halfway. I'm going to take a break from it for a little bit, and then I will come back to it, because now I'm not in a rush to read it, but I do want to I finally want to read another Trollope book, and this is going to be the book. So this was the book. So I'm gonna finish this, and I don't know if I'll, because I think I have two. I thought I had 3 more, but I think I had 2 more books from the series, and then I might do The Way We Live Now. Just go ahead and start reading that one, and then come back to the Hollister series because I only have 1 book from that series. But yeah, so I'm reading that. And I don't know what I'll bring next, but I'm excited. But that was my October. Would love to know how your October went. Did you read scary books? Did you participate in Booktober? Did you read just books that where you feel are very autumnal, or did you just read whatever you desired to read? Would love to know how your reading went. Love to know if you had a favorite this month. Like I said, I kind of am caught between The Omen and The Once and Future Witches. Although I really enjoyed John Adams, but I also read that for throughout the year. So, so if you like this video. Oh, and by the way, sorry for earlier when I stumbled with giving, with Once and Future Witches. I don't know why I was stumbling. Like I said, I didn't want to start over with this video because I'm going to be called down to dinner soon. I wanted to get this filmed and not have to start over. So anyway, if you guys like this video, please give a thumbs up, click subscribe, click the bell icon if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!